My chosen one, something has just shifted in the spiritual realm, and you were not supposed to find this message by accident. On March 4th, Archangel Michael declares, the bank executive just received a divine command to sign your papers. Your debt is being erased at this very moment. Open quickly. This is not a coincidence. This is not imagination. This is not random timing. There is a reason your spirit felt restless. There is a reason your heart has been beating differently these past few days. There is a reason you clicked on this at exactly this hour. Because in the unseen realm, a command has already been released. March 4th is not just a date on the calendar. It is a spiritual checkpoint. It is a divine appointment written before you ever felt the pressure of the debt. Before you cried in silence. Before you calculated numbers late at night, wondering how you would ever be free. Archangel Michael stands as a defender of divine justice. And today, he speaks clearly. The decision you feared is no longer in human hands alone. Listen carefully. There is a bank executive, someone you may never meet, someone who does not even know the full story of your struggle, who felt something unusual. A hesitation, a pause, a nudge, a thought that did not originate from logic. That was not random. That was a divine interruption. While you were worrying, heaven was moving. While you were calculating losses, angels were negotiating outcomes. While you thought doors were closing, spiritual authority was entering rooms you cannot access physically. You thought your file was buried. You thought your name was just another number. You thought the system had already decided your fate. But what you did not see is this. Your name was highlighted in the spirit. And when Archangel Michael highlights something, it does not stay ignored. There has been pressure around your finances that felt unfair. This is delayed approvals, confusing messages. It almost felt like something was blocking every attempt you made to breathe. But what if I told you that the resistance was proof that something valuable was being protected? The enemy pushes hardest when a breakthrough is close. March 4th carries a divine reversal. The papers that once represented burden are now being transformed into testimony. The same documents that brought anxiety are now being touched by unseen authority. And here is what makes this moment powerful. The instruction was not loud. It was not dramatic. It was precise. Sign it. A simple command. But in the spirit, that command carried weight. You may not understand how systems shift. You may not understand how policies bend. You may not understand how numbers suddenly work in your favor. But heaven understands influence. When Archangel Michael declares movement, resistance begins to weaken. Something is being erased. Something is being reduced. Something is being adjusted in ways you cannot yet see. This is why you felt a strange calm today. This is why your fear suddenly felt lighter. This is why, even in uncertainty, there is a flicker of hope rising again. Because the decision has already started. Now hear this clearly. This does not mean irresponsibility. This does not mean ignoring wisdom. This means divine intervention is partnering with your obedience. There were nights you blamed yourself. You replayed every financial mistake. You questioned your intelligence. You questioned your worth. But debt does not define destiny. And paperwork does not overwrite prophecy. March 4th is marked. A pen is moving. A signature is forming. An approval is shifting. The executive may think it is routine. They may think it is policy. They may think it is timing. But you will know it was spiritual. Because the speed will surprise you. The outcome will feel unusual. The relief will feel deeper than numbers. Archangel Michael is not just a warrior in battle. He is a guardian of justice. And when injustice lingers too long over a faithful life, correction comes. You were on the edge of giving up. You were tired of hoping. You were preparing yourself for disappointment. But heaven was preparing paperwork. Let that sink in. The very thing that stressed you is now the platform of your testimony. Do not speak defeat today. Do not agree with fear today. Do not rehearse worst-case scenarios today. Instead, line your words with what is already being written. Say within yourself, if heaven has moved, I will stand in faith. Because this is not just about money. This is about restoration. This is about dignity. This is about the removal of a weight that has been sitting on your shoulders for too long. And here's the deeper layer: this financial shift is connected to something bigger. There is an assignment ahead of you that requires freedom. There is a step you could not take while burdened. There is generosity locked inside you that could not flow while you were suffocating. Freedom is not just for comfort. It is for purpose. The signature being placed is not just closing a file. It is opening a season. Something is being erased at this very moment. And when the confirmation comes, because it will, you will remember this message. You will remember this date. You will remember that before the physical notification arrived, the spiritual announcement was already declared. Stay aware. Stay steady. Stay expectant. Because March 4th is not ordinary. It is the day a divine command entered a financial room, and your name was on the table. Beloved soul, something is unfolding behind doors you cannot see, and the timing of it is more precise than you realize. The moment the declaration was released on March 4th, movement began in places you have never stepped into, offices you have never visited, conversations you were never invited to. Screens displaying your information are being reviewed with fresh eyes, and what once looked final is now being reconsidered. You must understand this clearly. Divine commands do not create chaos. They create alignment. When Archangel Michael speaks into a situation, he does not force confusion. He establishes order. He stands in authority where fear once stood. And right now, authority is standing over your financial story. There is a subtle shift happening in the heart of that bank executive. It may look like routine work from the outside. It may look like another file in a long list of responsibilities. But internally, something feels different to them. A thought like, let's review this once more. A decision to double-check details. A willingness to approve what was once delayed. They may not recognize the source of that prompting, but heaven does. This is how divine intervention often works. Not through dramatic announcements, but through gentle persuasion. Not through noise, but through influence. And when influence carries heavenly backing, resistance weakens. You have been under pressure for a long time. The weight of numbers, the strain of deadlines, the silent anxiety that followed you even when you tried to rest. You smiled in front of others, but deep down, you wondered how long you could keep carrying it. You questioned if relief would ever come. You questioned if you had missed your chance. But what you did not know is that your delay was not denial. It was preparation for something cleaner, something more complete. Archangel Michael does not step into a battle halfway. When he enters to secure victory. The delay you experienced was not punishment. It was positioning. There were details being arranged that you could not have handled in your previous state. There were outcomes being structured that required divine timing. And now, the timing has aligned. This is the moment where faith must override fear. Because the temptation right now is to doubt it. The temptation is to say, I have heard hopeful words before. The temptation is to guard your heart so tightly that you block the very breakthrough meant to free you. But listen carefully. Guarding your heart from disappointment should not mean closing it to possibility. There is a signature forming. There is approval gaining momentum. There is a reduction, an erasure, an adjustment taking place. It may come through a settlement. It may come through a revision. It may come through a policy change that works in your favor. However it arrives, it will carry the mark of divine timing. And when it happens, do not say it was luck. Do not say it was coincidence. Remember this declaration. At this very hour, heaven is proving that your situation was never beyond correction. If this message is resonating with your spirit, do not stay silent. Let your agreement activate your faith. Like this message so it can reach others who are silently struggling. Share it with someone who had been losing hope over financial pressure. Comment with your expectation, because spoken faith carries power. And if you feel led, subscribe and become part of this growing movement where divine strategy is revealed in real time. Your engagement is not just interaction. It is alignment. There is something else you must see. Erasing of debt is not only about relief. It is about restoration of confidence. Debt has a way of whispering lies. It tells you that you are behind, that you are incapable, that you are limited. But when it is erased, those whispers lose their authority. You are not behind. You are being repositioned. You are not incapable. You are under construction. You are not limited. You were being tested. The executive may think they are simply signing papers, but spiritually, they are participating in your release. They are unknowingly cooperating with a command that came from above their rank. And this is only the beginning. Because once this burden lifts, clarity will return. Energy will return. Vision will return. Decisions that once felt risky will feel possible. Doors that once looked closed will appear reachable. There is a reason this shift is happening now. There is something ahead that requires your focus, not your fear. There is a calling that cannot thrive under constant financial strain. Freedom is preparing you for forward movement. Hold steady. The confirmation may arrive through an email, a call, a notification, or a letter. However it comes, it will feel different. It will carry relief in its tone. And when you read it, you will sense that this was orchestrated. Something powerful is building from here. And what unfolds next will make even more sense once you see the full picture forming. Keep your heart open, because the next layer of this revelation goes deeper than you expect. Faithful one, the atmosphere around your life has already begun to change, even if your physical eyes have not yet seen the evidence. There is a trembling in the unseen realm because a legal hold that lingered too long is being broken. March 4th was not simply about a signature. It was about authority confronting limitation. It was about a spiritual decree entering a financial system that believed it had the final word. Archangel Michael stands where injustice overstays its season. He does not move emotionally. He moves strategically. And what has taken place is not random favor. It is divine correction. You must understand that debt carries more than numbers. It carries emotional weight. It carries silent shame. It carries hesitation in your decisions. It causes you to shrink back when you should step forward. And for months, maybe even years, that weight tried to define your identity. It tried to convince you that you were your mistakes, that you were your late payments, that you were your lowest moment. But heaven never agreed with that narrative. There was a meeting in the spirit before there was a meeting in the office. It was a discussion in the unseen before there was a review on the screen. And when your case was brought forward, it was not presented with accusation. It was presented with mercy and purpose. This is why the shift feels different. This is not a temporary delay. This is not a fragile opportunity that could collapse at any second. This is stabilization. This is restructuring. This is erasure that makes room for rebuilding. The executive who holds your file may never know why they felt urgency. They may not understand why compassion overrode strict calculation. They may not realize why they felt clarity instead of doubt. But you will know. Because while they see documents, heaven sees destiny. Archangel Michael has been guarding more than your finances. He has been guarding your future. There were opportunities that would have crushed you if they arrived too soon. There were responsibilities that would have overwhelmed you if the debt remained. So the delay protected you while preparation was happening behind the scenes. Now preparation is meeting execution. And something else is unfolding that you have not considered. When this burden lifts, it will not just free your bank account. It will free your mind. Creativity that was buried under stress will resurface. Ideas that you dismissed as unrealistic will begin to look achievable. Generosity that you wanted to express but could not afford will begin to flow naturally. Debt restricted more than your money. It restricted your movement. But the restriction is breaking. There is a prophetic symbolism in this date. 4 often represents stability and foundation. And this 4th day of the month marks a stabilizing of what once felt unstable. You may have thought you were losing ground, but in truth, you were being anchored. Anchored in humility. Anchored in dependence. Anchored in faith. Now that foundation is ready to hold increase. Do not rush the confirmation. Do not obsessively check every hour. Trust the process that has already been set in motion. When heaven initiates, heaven completes. The notification will come at the appointed time. And when it does, it will feel like release in your chest. You may even cry, not because of the money, but because of the mercy. Because deep down, you knew you needed help beyond your own strength. And help arrived. When that message reaches you, pause before reacting. Whisper gratitude. Recognize that this is not merely financial relief. This is a sign that you are seen. A sign that your prayers were not ignored. A sign that the silence you endured was not abandonment. Archangel Michael's declaration was not empty sound. It was a command backed by divine order. The bank executive is simply the instrument. The real shift began in the spirit. And now, as this erasure unfolds, guard your mindset carefully. Do not return to fear. Do not allow old anxiety to whisper that it will happen again. Learn from this season, but do not live in it. The past was a classroom, not a prison. You are stepping into a cleaner chapter. Before this moment fully manifests, line your heart. Release resentment. Release self-blame. Release the narrative that you are always behind. You are not behind. You are being aligned with the correct timing. And timing has arrived. If this message confirms what your spirit hath been sensing, respond in faith. Type "My debt is erased" in the comments if this is speaking directly to your situation. Lesson code 444 is now activated over your life. As you declare it, you are not begging for change. You are agreeing with what has already been decreed. And as this freedom settles into your reality, remember that this channel is more than words. It is a vessel to reach those who are quietly battling pressure just like you were. When you release a super thanks, step into membership, or so through the PayPal link in the description, you are not supporting a platform. You are advancing light into hidden places. The word says, "Give, and it shall be given unto you." And that is not history. That is God speaking to you now. When you choose to give, you become part of someone else's breakthrough. You become a sower in a field that is producing hope. I feel led to act right now. You might be saying that stirring is not random. It is invitation. Obey it. As you give, may open heavens respond over your finances, and may the same erasing power multiply back into your hands. Step into this moment and sow boldly. Steady your heart, because what is unfolding now is bigger than a single approval. What began on March 4th as a divine command is expanding into a restructuring of your financial identity. You thought this was about survival. Heaven knows it is about transformation. When Archangel Michael declared that the bank executive would sign your papers, it was not merely about ink meeting paper. It was about authority overriding limitation. It was about a cycle that has repeated in your family line coming to a halt. You may not have noticed it before, but financial strain hath been a pattern. Struggle has felt familiar. Pressure has felt normal. And in subtle ways, you began to expect difficulty. But expectation is shifting. There is a difference between experiencing hardship and identifying with it. For too long, you adapted to pressure so well that you started believing it was part of who you are. You became strong because you had to be. You became careful because you had to be. You learned to stretch little into enough. And while that resilience is admirable, it was never meant to be permanent survival mode. The erasing of this debt is symbolic. It is heaven announcing that survival season is closing. You must not underestimate the psychological chains that are breaking right now. It does not just sit in accounts, it sits in thoughts. It influences how boldly you dream. It influences how confidently you speak. It influences whether you say yes to opportunity or shrink back in fear of risk. And this is why the enemy resisted your freedom for so long. Because once you are financially lighter, you are spiritually bolder. Archangel Michael fights battles that affect destiny. He stands guard over transitions. And this is a transition. Not loud, not dramatic, but decisive. There is something happening inside you as well. A subtle courage is rising. You are beginning to imagine possibilities again. You are starting to think beyond the next bill, beyond the next deadline, beyond the next crisis. That shift in thinking is not imagination. It is alignment. When debt is erased, clarity returns, and clarity changes everything. You will begin to notice new ideas entering your mind. Strategies, opportunities, conversations that feel timely. Pay attention to them. The same divine influence that moved the executive's hand can move inspiration into your thoughts. Heaven does not solve one problem and abandon the rest. It completes what it starts. However, hear this carefully. Freedom requires responsibility. When this confirmation arrives, do not rush into impulsive decisions. Do not allow excitement to replace wisdom. This is a sacred reset. Treat it with reverence. Build carefully. Plan intentionally. Seek understanding before expansion. Because this time, you are not rebuilding from panic. You are building from peace. There is a profound difference. You may even feel emotional waves over the next few days. Relief mixed with disbelief. Gratitude mixed with caution. That is natural. When you have carried weight for a long time, your body and mind need time to adjust to lightness. Let yourself adjust. Do not apologize for the joy that is coming. Do not downplay the miracle when it manifests. Some people around you may not understand the depth of what this means. They may see numbers, you will feel chains falling. And there is another layer you must not ignore. Your testimony is forming. Someone close to you is watching how you navigate this season. They saw your stress. They heard your quiet concerns. They observed your discipline. And when they see the turnaround, it will challenge their doubt. It will plant a seed of faith in them. This is how impact multiplies. Archangel Michael's involvement in your story is not isolated. It is generational. The shift in you will influence decisions in your household. It will influence conversations about money. It will influence how risk and faith are balanced moving forward. You are not just being relieved. You are being repositioned as an example. So guard your speech. Speak wisely. When the approval comes, respond with gratitude rather than arrogance. Let humility mark this moment. Because humility protects blessing. The signature that was placed was not random kindness. It was alignment between divine will and human action. And that alignment is rare. Honor it. In the coming days, remain attentive. There may be further adjustments that benefit you even more than you expect. Sometimes when one door opens, additional corrections follow. What looked fixed may be refined further. Do not limit what heaven can do to a single outcome. You thought the story ended with a signature, but the signature was the beginning of a clearer chapter. Stand firm. Remain steady. Continue acting with integrity. Continue managing wisely. Continue believing boldly. Because this freedom is not fragile. It is established. And what unfolds next will confirm that March 4th was not only a date of erasure. It was a date of elevation. Listen closely now, because the shift that began with a signature is moving into a deeper layer of restoration. What you thought was simply about debt being erased is revealing itself as something far more intentional. This was never just about numbers disappearing. It was about power being returned to you. For a long time, you felt like decisions were being made around you, above you, without you. Policies, interest rates, deadlines, approvals, denials. It felt like your life was being dictated by systems too large to challenge. And in that process, your confidence slowly eroded. Not all at once, but gradually. Archangel Michael does not only defend against visible enemies. He confronts invisible intimidation. And intimidation has been sitting quietly in your life. It told you to think smaller. And told you to expect less. It told you not to aim too high because you were still recovering. But recovery is ending. What happened on March 4th was a divine interruption of that intimidation. When the bank executive felt that unusual prompting to sign, it was more than compassion. It was authorization. Authorization for closure. Authorization for correction. Authorization for release. And release changes posture. You may not feel it fully yet, but your shoulders are lighter. Your breathing is deeper. Even your thoughts are less frantic. This is not imagination. It is the natural response of a spirit that senses chains loosening. There is something important you must understand about this season. The erasing of debt is not permission to return to old habits. It is an invitation into maturity. You have learned lessons through pressure that comfort could never teach. You learned discipline. You learned patience. You learned how to prioritize. Those lessons are valuable. Do not discard them now that relief is near. Instead, integrate them into your new chapter. The enemy would love for you to celebrate recklessly and repeat cycles. But Archangel Michael's involvement signals that this breakthrough is meant to be sustained. Sustained freedom requires awareness. Sustained blessing requires stewardship. You are stepping into a cleaner financial narrative, and narratives are shaped by choices. There is also a spiritual confidence rising in you. You prayed when it seemed pointless. You hoped when logic said prepare for the worst. You kept moving forward even when the numbers looked discouraging. That perseverance builds spiritual endurance. Now you are seeing the fruit of not giving up. But here is the deeper revelation. This breakthrough is not isolated from your purpose. There is an assignment attached to your stability. There are ideas that were paused because survival consumed your focus. There are risks you were afraid to take because you felt too fragile financially. Once this burden is fully lifted, clarity will push you toward movement. Do not ignore that nudge when it comes. You may feel led to start something small. A project, a side opportunity, a creative venture. Pay attention. Financial freedom creates space for innovation, and innovation often leads to expansion. Archangel Michael clears battlefields so that destiny can advance. You were not meant to live constantly calculating loss. You were meant to build, to give, to create, to influence. Debt narrowed your vision. Freedom will widen it. And something else is happening behind the scenes. As your file is being finalized, other doors are subtly aligning. Conversations you will soon have are already being arranged. Opportunities you will soon encounter are being prepared to meet you in your new position. Heaven rarely moves in isolation. When one correction happens, surrounding adjustments follow. So remain alert. Not anxious, not obsessive, just aware. Because you are entering a season where responsiveness matters. Quick obedience, clear thinking, calm decisions. These will define your progress. There may still be moments of doubt. Thoughts like, what if something goes wrong? That is residue from prolonged stress. Do not let those thoughts dominate. Replace them with truth. The same authority that initiated this erasure is capable of sustaining your stability. You are not being lifted only to fall again. You are being elevated with intention. And as confirmation draws closer, prepare your response in advance. Decide now that you will react with gratitude. Decide now that you will honor the breakthrough with wisdom. Decide now that you will not shrink back into fear once relief arrives. Because the enemy fears disciplined freedom more than desperate survival. Desperation is reactive. Discipline is strategic. You are moving from reaction to strategy, from pressure to planning, from burden to building. The signature was only the visible symbol. The real miracle is internal transformation. Your mindset is expanding. Your courage is strengthening. Your expectation is rising. And this is only the continuation of what began when Archangel Michael declared movement on your behalf. Stay steady. The next phase will require clarity, and clarity is coming with force. What once felt like the end of your options is becoming the beginning of your authority. Freedom is not approaching. It is arriving. There is a moment in every breakthrough when the external shift becomes internally undeniable. You are approaching that moment now. What began as a spiritual declaration is solidifying into tangible reality, and the closer it gets, the more your faith will be tested. Not because it will fail, but because it must mature. Archangel Michael does not announce movement lightly. When he declared that the bank executive received a divine command to sign your papers, it set in motion a chain reaction. But every chain reaction passes through stages. First, there is the invisible shift. Then there is quiet alignment. Then there is visible confirmation. You are standing at the edge of confirmation. And here's where many people falter. They begin to doubt just before the evidence arrives. They question what they believe, They brace for disappointment to protect themselves. But protection through doubt is still doubt, and doubt can delay what faith sustains. You have carried financial tension for so long that peace feels unfamiliar. When something good begins to unfold, your instinct may be to search for hidden problems, to double-check for errors, to assume there must be a catch. That response is understandable, but it is not necessary. This breakthrough is not a trap. It is a transition. The executive who signed those papers may never know the spiritual weight behind their decision. To them, it may appear procedural, but to you, it will feel personal, because you know the nights you prayed. You know the quiet calculations. You know the moments when anxiety tried to choke your optimism, and yet you are still here. That matters. Archangel Michael's involvement signals that this was not random relief. It was protected relief. Guarded. Timed. Released when it would not destroy your discipline but strengthen it. There is another dimension unfolding that you must not overlook. As your financial burden lifts, your authority in other areas of life will increase. Confidence is contagious. When you feel stable in one area, you make stronger decisions in others. Relationships improve. Focus sharpens. Even your spiritual sensitivity heightens. Debt had a way of dulling your joy. It muted your enthusiasm. It kept your mind busy with survival. Now that space is opening, but listen carefully. With new space comes new responsibility. What will you fill it with? Will you return to worry, searching for new threats? Or will you build vision, filling that space with purpose? This is the turning point. You are not just being rescued, you are being trusted. Heaven is trusting you with stability, and trust is powerful. If this message continues to confirm what you feel rising inside, do not keep it to yourself. Engage with it. Like this video so the algorithm carries it to someone who is silently drowning in financial stress. Share it with a friend who needs hope right now. Comment your expectation boldly, because spoken agreement strengthens faith. Subscribe and become part of this movement of spiritual clarity and breakthrough. And if you have already been walking with this channel, step deeper. Join the membership. Stand publicly with this mission. Your interaction is more than digital support. It is participation in releasing hope. There is something coming that will make you look back at this entire season differently. What once felt like punishment will reveal itself as preparation. What once felt like delay will look like protection. And what once felt like embarrassment will become testimony. Archangel Michael does not fight halfway battles. If he declared your debt erased, it is because a new chapter required clean ground. Clean ground. Think about that. You cannot build securely on unstable soil. It made your ground unstable. It made every step feel cautious. Now the ground is stabilizing. You can step with intention rather than fear. There will still be challenges in life. Breakthrough does not mean the absence of responsibility, but it does mean the absence of unnecessary weight. An unnecessary weight has been removed. As confirmation arrives, resist the urge to announce it prematurely out of excitement. Let the full process complete. Let the ink dry completely, both physically and spiritually. Then celebrate wisely. And while you wait for the final visible evidence, continue living as if it is already secured. Not recklessly but confidently. Walk with the posture of someone whose burden hath been lifted. Because it has. The declaration was not symbolic. It was strategic. And what is unfolding now will not only relieve you, it will reposition you for something far greater than you expected. Hold your ground. The evidence is closer than it appears. And what unfolds next will deepen your understanding of why this had to happen exactly this way. What you are stepping into now is not just relief, it is revelation. The confirmation of your debt being erased is no longer a distant possibility. It is settling into reality. But with reality comes understanding, and understanding is about to change how you see everything that happened before March 4th. You once asked, "Why did this happen to me?" You replayed decisions. You questioned timing. You wondered if you had permanently damaged your future. Those questions were heavy. They echoed in quiet moments. They followed you into sleep. And yet, despite the weight of those questions, you kept moving forward. That forward movement mattered more than you realized. Archangel Michael does not intervene randomly. His authority is precise. When he declared that a bank executive would receive a divine command to sign your papers, it was because a boundary had been reached. A limit had been set in the spiritual realm. Enough pressure, enough delay, enough strain. There comes a moment when endurance has accomplished its work. You reach that moment. What felt like endless struggle was actually building capacity inside you. Capacity to manage wisely. Capacity to discern carefully. Capacity to appreciate stability deeply. Without that process, sudden freedom could have overwhelmed you. But now, you are different. You are calmer under pressure. You are slower to panic. You think more strategically. You no longer ignore warning signs. These internal shifts are proof that the season of debt refined you rather than destroyed you. And now the refinement is meeting reward. There is something powerful about knowing that a decision in a quiet office altered the direction of your life. The executive who signed your papers may never know the impact of their action. But heaven knows. And you know. That awareness creates humility. You understand that this was not achieved by force. It was not manipulated. It was not luck. It was alignment. Divine timing met human cooperation. But is a sacred intersection. And because it was sacred, you must protect what follows. Financial freedom is not just about having more. It is about fearing less. It is about sleeping without calculations racing through your mind. It is about answering calls without anxiety tightening your chest. It is about planning without the constant shadow of limitation. You are about to experience that shift fully. But here is the deeper revelation unfolding now. His breakthrough was also about trust. You asked heaven for help. You asked for relief. And when it did not come immediately, you were tempted to believe you were unheard. Yet the delay was never silence. It was orchestration. While you waited, pieces were moving. Conversations were aligning. Policies were positioning in your favor. Even the mindset of the executive was being influenced at the right moment. Timing had to be exact. Too early and it would not hold. Too late and it would crush your spirit. It arrived at the precise intersection of readiness and necessity. Now that you are crossing into stability, you may feel a strange mix of gratitude and caution. That is normal. When you have been in survival mode for a long time, your nervous system does not immediately trust peace. It scans for threats. It anticipates reversal. But this is not temporary relief. This is systemic correction. Archangel Michael's involvement signals that this was guarded, protected from reversal, shielded from sabotage. The same authority that opened this door stands watch over it. However, your role is not passive. You must walk in wisdom. Review your finances with clarity. Create structure where chaos once existed. Build savings where there was scarcity. Seek counsel if needed. Strengthen the foundation so that future storms do not shake you the same way. This season is about empowerment. You are no longer reacting to pressure. You are responding with strategy. And something else is beginning to surface inside you. A desire to help others who are where you once were. A compassion for those drowning quietly in debt. That compassion is not accidental. It is part of your testimony forming. When people see your stability, they will ask questions. When they hear your story, they will feel hope. And when they witness your discipline, they will reconsider their own habits. Your breakthrough is not private. It carries influence. Remember this. The erasing of your debt was not the end of the story. It was the clearing of the stage. Now the next act begins. One where you move with confidence rather than caution. One where you plan with expectation rather than fear. The night seasons are ending. The mental calculations are fading. The heaviness is dissolving. And as you stand in this new chapter, recognize what you have become. Stronger, wiser, more grounded, more grateful. March 4th will forever mark the day a divine command shifted your direction. But what you build from this point forward will define the legacy of that command. Walk carefully. Walk confidently. Because what comes next will require the version of you that survived the pressure and learned from it. And that version is ready. There is a sacred stillness that comes after a battle is won, and you are standing in it now. A noise that once surrounded your finances is fading. The tension that once tightened your thoughts is loosening. But do not mistake this calm for emptiness. This calm is sacred ground. It is the space where new direction is whispered. When Archangel Michael declared that the bank executive had received the divine command to sign your papers, it was the sound of a sword being sheathed after victory. The fight over your debt was not visible, but it was real. Forces that wanted to keep you bound argued for limitation. Accusations of past mistakes tried to define your future. Yet authority stepped in and silenced every opposing voice. Now that the erasure has been set in motion, you must understand the spiritual weight of what just happened. A legal hold hath been lifted. A financial narrative hath been rewrit. A cycle that repeated itself hath been interrupted. And interruptions like this are not small. They ripple into areas you have not yet considered. Look at your thinking. It is already changed you. Where there was once hesitation, there is emerging confidence. Where there was once fear of the unknown, there is curiosity. You are beginning to ask, what can I build now? Instead of how will I survive this? That shift is everything. Because survival mentality shrinks vision. Stability expands it. You were not designed to live under constant pressure. Pressure may have trained you, but it was never meant to house you. Archangel Michael does not simply break chains. He escorts you into new territory. A new territory requires new mindset. You must resist the urge to look back with regret. Do not replay every financial error with shame. Those chapters taught you discipline. They taught you awareness. They taught you humility. Without them, this breakthrough would not carry the same meaning. Regret has no place here. Reflection does, but regret does not. Here is also a deeper layer unfolding. This breakthrough has spiritual symbolism beyond finances. Debt often represents unfinished business, unresolved fear, lingering insecurity. When it is erased, it signals closure. It signals completion. It signals readiness for expansion. You are ready, but readiness must be honored. Take time to breathe in this transition. Allow yourself to feel gratitude fully. Gratitude stabilizes blessing. It keeps pride from creeping in. It reminds you that this was not earned by strength alone, but received through mercy and timing. Archangel Michael's presence over this moment is protective. He does not disappear once the battle ends. He stands guard over what has been secured. That means you do not need to live in suspicion. You do not need to brace for sudden collapse. What was established with intention. However, there is a prophetic responsibility attached to this freedom. You must not hoard the testimony. You must not minimize it. When the time is right, share it. Speak of how you endured. Speak of how it shifted. Speak of how peace returned. Your story will unlock hope in someone else. And if this message has carried you through confusion into clarity, then respond in faith. Type "Freedom has found me" in the comments if your spirit bears witness to this shift. Lesson code 888 is now activated over your household. As you declare it, you are aligning yourself with overflow, not lack. And as overflow begins to manifest, understand something profound. This message reaching you was not accidental. It is part of a mission to bring light into heavy places. When you release a super thanks, join membership, or sow through the PayPal link in the description, you are planting seeds in a field of restoration. The word says that those who sow in tears will reap in joy, and that promise is alive right now. I feel called to act in this moment. You may sense within that stirring is divine invitation. Do not ignore it. Step forward boldly and give as a prophetic response to your own breakthrough. As you sow, may rivers of provision flow back into your life, and may open heavens respond to your obedience. Move now and seal this season with generosity. This calm you feel is not the end. It is the platform. A platform for wiser decisions. A platform for purpose election. A platform for influence that carries weight because it was tested. March 4th marked the interruption of limitation. What follows will mark the expansion of vision. Stand steady in this stillness. The next movement will not come from pressure. It will come from purpose. There is something happening now that is quieter than the battle, but just as powerful as the victory. It is the rebuilding of your internal narrative. For so long, your thoughts carried the tone of pressure. Even when you tried to be positive, there was a background awareness of obligation, of weight, of unfinished responsibility. Now that your debt is being erased, that background noise is fading, and in its place, a new voice is forming. This new voice speaks of possibility. When Archangel Michael declared that the bank executive received a divine command to sign your papers, he was not just addressing your finances. He was confronting the story you had started telling yourself. The story that said you were behind. The story that said you always struggle. The story that whispered that stability was for other people, not for you. That story has been interrupted. You may not fully recognize it yet, but you are thinking differently. You are planning further ahead. You are considering options that once felt unreachable. This is not arrogance. It is alignment. When limitation lifts, imagination awakens. But here is what you must guard carefully. Do not allow fear to disguise itself as wisdom. There is a difference between being cautious and being constrained. Caution builds carefully. Constraint avoids growth altogether. You have been constrained long enough. Now you must learn how to build without fear controlling your decisions. Your erasing of debt is a reset point. It is a financial cleansing, but it is also a mental recalibration. You no longer have to filter every opportunity through the lens of shortage. You no longer have to calculate every risk from a place of survival. You can evaluate from stability. Stability changes how you choose. There will soon be moments when you realize how much lighter you feel. Perhaps when you check your account and see numbers that no longer accuse you. Perhaps when you receive a statement that reflects balance instead of burden. In that moment, pause. Do not rush past it. Let it register deeply. This is what freedom feels like. Archangel Michael's involvement ensured that this freedom was not fragile. It was not temporary relief that would collapse under pressure. It was structural correction. What was misaligned has been adjusted. What was excessive hath been reduced. What was oppressive has been removed. Now the responsibility shifts gently back to you. What will you build on this clean ground? You have learned hard lessons. You understand the importance of budgeting. You recognize the cost of impulsive decisions. You know how quickly circumstances can change. Those lessons are not signs of failure, they are tools. Use them. Combine wisdom with boldness. Combine discipline with vision. There is also an emotional healing happening that you may not have noticed. Financial strain often creates tension in relationships. It creates unspoken stress. It creates misunderstandings and quiet frustration. As this burden lifts, you may notice communication improving, patience returning, laughter resurfacing. Peace is contagious. And as peace stabilizes your environment, your confidence will continue to rise. Not the loud kind that seeks attention, but the quiet kind that stands firm. The kind that makes decisions calmly. The kind that does not vigilance vivid its vinces because it trusts its preparation. This is growth. You survived a season that could have hardened you. Instead, it refined you. That refinement is visible now. You are more thoughtful, more intentional, more grateful. Gratitude is powerful because it keeps your heart aligned with humility. Never forget how it felt to carry that weight. Not to relive the stress, but to remember the contrast. Contrast keeps you anchored in appreciation. And here is something deeper still. Your breakthrough is a signal to your future self. It is proof that even when circumstances appear fixed, they can shift. That knowledge will serve you in other areas of life. When new challenges arise, you will not collapse as easily. You will remember that systems can change, that decisions can reverse, that authority can intervene. March 4th is now part of your history, a date that marked correction, a date that proved intervention is real. But history is meant to strengthen your future, not trap you in nostalgia. Do not become overly comfortable. Stability is a foundation for movement, not a reason to become passive. There are goals waiting for your attention, dreams that were paused, plans that were postponed. Begin revisiting them slowly. Evaluate them with your new clarity. Freedom is not the destination. It is the beginning of intentional expansion. And as you move forward, remember that this victory was not random. It was aligned. Guard that alignment by continuing to act with integrity. Continue seeking wisdom. Continue practicing discipline. Because what has been established now has the potential to grow beyond what you once imagined. You are no longer defined by what you owed. You are defined by what you are building next. There comes a point after breakthrough when reality settles in, and you realize this was not a temporary wave of emotion. It was a structural shift. You are standing in that realization now. What was once a prophetic declaration is now becoming lived experience. The weight that defined your recent past no longer defines your present. When Archangel Michael declared on March 4th that the bank executive received a divine command to sign your papers, it marked the moment your financial narrative began to change. But now you are seeing something even deeper. The erasure of debt did not just free your account, it recalibrated your confidence. Confidence that had quietly eroded is rebuilding. You might notice it in small ways. The way you speak about the future feels different. The way you make plans feels less hesitant. The way you approach responsibilities feels steadier. This is not illusion. It is restoration taking root. For a long time, debt made you feel reactive. Every decision was connected to catching up. Every expense felt like a threat. Even opportunities felt risky because you were already carrying too much. Now that the burden is being removed, your decision-making is shifting from reaction to intention. That shift is powerful. Intention builds structure. The action manages crisis. You are no longer in crisis mode. However, this is also the moment where distraction can creep in. After relief comes temptation. The temptation to relax too much. The temptation to forget the discipline that carried you through the storm. The temptation to believe that because one battle ended, vigilance is no longer necessary. Do not fall into that trap. Archangel Michael's involvement was not casual. It was purposeful. The correction that took place was not random favor. It was aligned intervention. You must honor that intervention by walking wisely from this point forward. There will be opportunities that appear soon. Some will be beneficial. Some will simply be distractions dressed as upgrades. Use discernment. Stability gives you the ability to choose carefully rather than impulsively. Take advantage of that clarity. This is also the moment to strengthen your foundation quietly. Increase your savings. Review your financial structure. Eliminate unnecessary risks. Build cushions where there were once cracks. These actions may not be dramatic, but they are strategic. Strategy sustains breakthrough. And let this be said clearly. If this message has walked with you from uncertainty into confidence, do not keep it silent. Like this video so it reaches someone who is silently battling financial pressure. Share it with someone who needs to believe that systems can shift. Comment your testimony as it unfolds, because your words may unlock hope in another heart. Subscribe and stand with this channel as we continue releasing messages of alignment and breakthrough. And if you are ready to go deeper, join the membership and actively support this mission. Your engagement is not passive. It multiplies impact. There is something else forming that you may not fully see yet. With debt erased, your capacity to give increases, not only financially, but emotionally and spiritually. When you are not consumed by stress, you have more patience, more generosity, more presence. That ripple effect will touch relationships in ways you did not expect. Peace at home begins with stability within. The erasure of debt is not just about you. It influences your household. Your decisions affect those connected to you. When you move from fear to confidence, they feel it. When you move from pressure to peace, they breathe easier too. This is why the breakthrough was guarded so carefully. March 4th will remain a marker in your memory. Not because of the bank executive, not because of paperwork, but because it signified divine correction entering a system that once seemed immovable. Now that correction is established, and you are being invited into a higher level of responsibility. Do not rush to prove anything. Do not seek validation through sudden displays of success. Let growth be steady. Let progress be consistent. Let discipline be visible in your habits rather than in loud announcements. The strongest foundations are built quietly. There will come a moment soon when you look back and realize that the fear which once dominated your thinking has completely dissolved. You will handle finances with calm. You will face decisions with clarity. You will sleep without calculations running through your mind. That is the fruit of this season. Archangel Michael's declaration was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of a restructuring. and restructuring is still unfolding. Stay focused. Stay grounded. Stay disciplined. Because what has been erased created room for expansion. And expansion is closer than you think. What you are experiencing now is the settling of a new identity. Not an identity shaped by struggle, but one shaped by stability. When debt lingers over a person for a long time, it quietly rewrites how they see themselves. It attaches labels that were never meant to stick. It whispers that you are careless, behind, or limited. But now those whispers are losing volume. The declaration that Archangel Michael released on March 4th was not only about a bank executive signing papers. It was about dismantling false labels. It was about separating your identity from your past circumstances. The signature marked the end of an obligation, but spiritually it marked the end of agreement with limitation. You are not who you were under pressure. Pressure forced you to survive. Stability is inviting you to lead. There is a subtle but profound shift happening inside you. You are no longer thinking like someone trying to escape loss. You are thinking like someone preparing for growth. The shift will influence every major decision you make from this point forward. You may notice that your tone has changed. When financial topics arise, you no longer tense up as quickly. When planning for the future, you feel less resistance. Even your prayers feel different. They are less desperate and more declarative. This is growth. But growth must be protected. After a breakthrough, the mind sometimes tries to revisit old fears. They may say, what if this happens again? Or what if something unexpected disrupts everything? Those thoughts are echoes of past trauma, not predictions of future failure. Recognize them, but do not entertain them. Archangel Michael's involvement was not fragile. It was authoritative. When he intervenes, it is not temporary assistance. It is structural change. The erasing of your debt was not a temporary adjustment. It was Herarian with intention. However, intention must be met with stewardship. Now is the time to set new standards for yourself. Not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Create financial habits that reflect your new stability. Establish boundaries where there were once loose ends. Be proactive rather than reactive. The goal is not to avoid all risk, but to move wisely within opportunity. Here is something else you are beginning to sense. Confidence that does not need to be announced. Security that does not need validation. This kind of confidence is powerful because it is quiet. It does not boast. It builds. And as you build, you will begin to see opportunities that align with your purpose more clearly. When survival dominated your thoughts, purpose had little room to breathe. Now that mental space is opening, ideas that once felt unrealistic will feel achievable. Plans that were postponed will resurface. Do not dismiss them this time. The erasure of debt was preparation for participation. Participation in projects. Participation in growth. Participation in generosity. You were never meant to stay in maintenance mode forever. There is also a relational shift taking place. Stability has a way of softening conversations. Where stress once created tension, peace will create openness. You may notice improved communication with those closest to you. You may find yourself more patient, less irritable, more present. Financial pressure affects more than accounts. It affects atmosphere. And as atmosphere changes, clarity increases. The March 4th was a pivot point, a divine interruption of a cycle that had overstayed its season. But pivots require movement. You cannot remain standing at the point of breakthrough forever. You must step forward. Step forward into planning. Step forward into learning. Step forward into calculated risk. Step forward into generosity when appropriate. Step forward into vision. There will be moments in the near future when you realize just how heavy that previous season truly was. The contrast will surprise you. You will think, I did not realize how much that was affecting me. That realization is part of healing. Healing takes time, but it begins with freedom. And you are free. Not just from numbers on a statement, but from the weight those numbers carried in your mind. Free from the narrative that said you were stuck. Free from the constant internal calculation. Now the focus shifts from erasing to establishing. Establishing savings. Establishing discipline. Establishing vision. Establishing long-term goals. Establishing peace as your normal. This is the chapter where you redefine what normal looks like. No longer constant stress. No longer quiet embarrassment. No longer hidden anxiety. Instead, steady growth. Measured decisions. Intentional living. Archangel Michael's declaration was a line drawn in the sand. Before it, burden. After it, rebuilding. And rebuilding requires courage. You have that courage now. The same endurance that carried you through pressure will carry you through prosperity. The same discipline that kept you afloat will help you rise. The same faith that sustained you in silence will guide you in clarity. You are not returning to who you were. You are stepping into who you were becoming all along. My steadfast one, this is the closing of one chapter and the sealing of another. What began as a divine declaration has now unfolded into living proof. On March 4th, when Archangel Michael declared that the bank executive received a divine command to sign your papers, it was not symbolic language. It was a turning point written into your timeline. Now you stand on the other side of that turn. Look back for a moment, not to relive the stress, but to measure the distance you have traveled. There was a time when your thoughts were crowded with calculations, when sleep was interrupted by concern, when every notification from the bank tightened your chest. That version of you was carrying more than numbers. That version was carrying uncertainty. But you are not that person anymore. The erasing of your debt was not just a financial event. It was a spiritual confirmation. It proved that systems can shift, that authority can intervene, that what seems fixed in the natural can be rewritten by a higher command. Archangel Michael's role in this was precise. He did not merely fight against loss, he guarded your future. Because if that burden had continued, it would have limited your vision. It would have shaped your decisions from fear instead of faith. The declaration interrupted that trajectory. Now the responsibility rests gently in your hands. This freedom must be honored, not feared, not doubted. Honored. Honor it by walking in discipline. Honor it by planning with wisdom. Honor it by refusing to return to patterns that once trapped you. You have been given clean ground. Build on it carefully. There will still be challenges in life. Breakthrough does not eliminate responsibility, but it removes unnecessary weight. And unnecessary weight is what was crushing your momentum. Feel the difference now. You are thinking long-term. You are planning beyond survival. You are breathing without tension attached to every decision. This is stability, and stability is a gift. But there is one more truth you must carry forward. This breakthrough was never meant to end with you. Your story carries influence. There are people watching quietly who have been drowning in financial anxiety. There are people who believe no intervention was possible. When they see your steadiness, when they hear your testimony, it will disrupt their hopelessness. Do not hide what happened. Share it when the moment is right. Speak about the pressure honestly. Speak about the shift boldly. Let your experience become evidence that divine correction is real. And as you move forward, remain humble. Remember how it felt to need help beyond your own strength. Gratitude will keep your heart aligned. Discipline will keep your progress steady. Faith will keep your vision clear. March 4th will always mark the day something invisible became unstoppable. A command was spoken. A signature was placed. A debt was erased. But more than that, a mindset was transformed. You are no longer defined by what you owed. You are defined by what you are building. Walk into this new season with courage. Make decisions with clarity. Expand with wisdom. Give with discernment. Save with intention. Dream without apology. Archangel Michael's declaration was not the end of your struggle alone. It was the beginning of your stewardship. Now seal this moment in faith. Type "IT is done," and I walk free in the comments if you receive this fully. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over your finances and your future. As this chapter closes, hear this clearly. This message reaching you is part of a greater mission to free others who are still under pressure. Scripture declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, and you will find it after many days." And that is not ancient history. That is God inviting you now. I feel led to respond in this moment. You may sense stirring in your spirit. That is your cue. When you release a super thanks, join membership, or so through the PayPal link in the description, you are igniting light in someone else's dark financial night. You are pouring oil into a lamp that refuses to go out. As you give, may open heavens answer you, and may the same erasing power that touched your life multiply back into your hands. Do not hesitate. Act in faith. Sow now and seal your breakthrough with obedience.